to another episode of Emerald Echo, a Green Lantern podcast. As always, Vidcast as well, because it's both. As always, I'm your host, Adam. And with me is my co-host, Donnie, the Emerald Enthusiast. Donnie, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, Lantern fans? It's the man whose ring runs on fanboy energy, the podcasting machine, the big nerd in green, your friendly neighborhood podcasting nerd. It is the Emerald Enthusiast, here to talk about Green Lantern number 5.
Now, you're lucky you're wearing that hat, because you can't say the Green Lantern fan in green if you're not wearing some sort of green. So
right. Well, I'll always have this. So
that is true. That is true.
Yeah.
And just because it'll aggravate some people, I don't have a Green Lantern shirt, and I have a Batman and Joker shirt on. So,
but man, that's cool though.
But yeah, no, I have to get a new. See, the problem is, the last time I had a Green Lantern shirt was a couple of years ago, and that one no longer fits me because eating.
Eating.
So I had to. Well, I didn't give it away, but my nephew stole that one because it fits him. And now I have to get myself a new one. So I'm on the lookout for a Green Lantern shirt so I can wear one for the purposes of this podcast. So I will have to update accordingly. But for now, it's still within the DC family. I also have to get a Ghostbusters t-shirt, just for anybody wondering.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. As Donnie inferred, we are here to discuss issue 5 of Green Lantern, the run by a friend of the show. I guess we can call him that now. He's been on the show once. We're scheduled to have him back again.
Mm-hmm.
Geoffrey Thorne.
Mr. Geoffrey Thorne, yes.
And the artists along for the ride with him are Marco Santucci and Tom Raney, correct?
Yes.
See, I did that for you this time because I know you get.
Oh, right. I'm impressed.
You get a little antsy when I tell you to do the roll call on the name. So.
Well, I've heard quite a few people, review this book online, and I've heard some people kind of mangle Marco Santucci's name. So
don't besmirch a good Italian name, folks. Get it right. We are the champions of Europe, after all. Sorry, Stephen. I have to throw that in. I know you're editing this, but.
If that part's not there, we know why.
He's lucky. He's lucky that West Island Stan account bet only lasted a week. If I had it my way, it would have lasted the whole month. But
hey, I still have the still frames though.
Yeah.
I got the screen caps. Yeah. So
he'll never be able to live that down. We'll live in infamy or for decades to come.
Yeah.
But anyway, neither here nor there. Let's get into the book because it was a good time. It was a good book.
So, Green Lantern number 5. Before I start with the events of this book, I want to go back and talk about something that I alluded to last episode. We saw a conversation of, you didn't actually see John, it was from John's point of view in issue number 4. John speaking with Ganthet after the events of Emerald Twilight. You saw what looked like the wreckage of Oa. And Ganthet said to John, I can hide your ascension. Meaning, remember we talked about John in Mosaic, he ascended to the level of Guardian. He became that powerful. And Ganthet said, I can't erase that, but I can hide it. And I actually asked Geoffrey Thorne because I don't want to lead somebody in the wrong direction. I went to him and I said, now, John seemingly wakes up all of a sudden after that scene. Is that a dream or is that a recovered memory? Because I was inclined to believe the latter. And he confirmed for me, yes, that's a recovered memory.
Okay.
So, interestingly enough here, John, somewhere within him, has the power of a Guardian. Now, obviously, it's not manifesting at this point, but that's something that we saw in Mosaic number 18.
I hope that we do, that Geoffrey Thorne does play around with that a little bit more because I'd love to see it.
Yeah, because, that was never nobody at DC ever picked up the threads of that story after it was over. We saw John become a Dark Star. We saw him become a mentor to Kyle in Volume 3. But we never, I mean, DC rarely mentioned that at all. And obviously later on, that became a problem because, we've spoken about the complications with the writer of that and, being someone who went to jail. And so DC didn't want to touch that anymore. But I'm liking the fact that Geoffrey Thorne looks at that and says, that's still a big part of John's history. I'm going to pick the ball up.
I mean, a good story point is a good story point, regardless of the person that came up with that being a less than savory individual.
Yeah.
So kudos to Geoffrey Thorne for realizing that, hey, this is something I can play with and make my own and use for my own purposes for the story, and why not?
Yeah. And something else I want to point out here. I don't know. Obviously, if you're listening to this on iTunes or Podbean, you won't be able to see this, but I'll explain it the best I can. Let me see if I can get a good shot of this here. Okay. The font, the Green Lantern font, the symbol in the middle. Okay?
Yeah.
If you take the comics and kind of put them side by side, you will see a progression of this in the middle that coincides with what has happened in the issue.
Okay.
If you put them all together like that, because what we see, like the first one, the logo was intact. The second one, you see an exploding logo. Then you see that it's in issue 3, it's damaged with dimming light. Then you see that it's smoldering, and here is kind of a crumbling husk. So, yeah, and I don't know if that was, Mr. Thorne's idea or whether that was, Marco Santucci or Tom Raney, but I like that you have that and you can actually, kind of see how the story is progressing just by this little logo on the cover.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
It is really cool. Now, it's not on the variant covers, which, by the way, I think this one's beautiful, too.
I hadn't noticed that. That's very well put together, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, yeah, I really like how that looked. So, also, I finally found out something that has been bugging me for weeks now. The name of the sorcerers or the magic wielders that we saw early on in this story, they are called the Bright Circle. At the end of last issue, Joe was discussing the possible people behind the attack on the Guardians and the destruction of the battery. She mentioned the Bright Circle.
I remember that, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I did not know the name Bright Circle either. And I went through, of course, I have DC Infinite where I can access, the majority of their library. And I went through every cosmic title and magic title that I could think of to try to find a reference to the Bright Circle. And I could not find them. And then eventually, and I don't think it wasn't me.
You asked Geoffrey Thorne again, didn't you?
Well, it was somebody else who asked him, and I think he put out a tweet. And he was like, "Oh yeah, by the way, the name of the name of the magic wielders in this story."
He's going to message you. Stop asking me for spoilers.
The Bright Circle. You have no idea.
If he refuses to come on this show again, I'm going to blame you because I haven't bothered the guy at all about spoilers or anything like that.
I was racking my brain with who is
so if we lose guest privileges, it's all on you, sir. I ain't.
Yeah. The thing is, I read an issue and I have to fight the urge to go on Twitter and immediately message him and say, "Hey Jeff, what about this thing and this thing and that?" So
he's giving if you don't stop asking me, I'm gonna kill Kyle. So watch yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I'm I can't make him mad now. Yeah.
So
exactly.
I wouldn't be messing with him.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So no, carry on.
Okay, so the scene opens up on New Koragar, where Sinestro is getting freaky with a couple of aliens. All I'm going to say there is not too much was shown, and thank you, Jeff. And go ahead.
Very classily done, I thought.
Exactly.
Listen,
yep.
These are characters with certain,
sure.
needs, impulses, and hey, listen, I'm not gonna fault Sinestro for enjoying some extracurricular activities.
And thankfully, when he got up, he had his uniform on. We didn't
Of course,
see.
yeah. I don't want to see. No, I don't want to see what Sinestro's working with. I have no desire to. It's not on my bucket list of things to see. But
well, there's Sinestro's butt. We've seen Sinestro's butt before. I don't
fist bump to Sinestro for getting some action going on over there.
Well, you know what I thought? I was like, I wonder what Lisa Drack thinks about this. Because I mean, I don't know if like Jeff is still continuing that storyline where she's obsessed with him, but we saw her on Oa, so we know that she's still around. So
yeah.
So So as we saw at the end of the last issue, Kelly flying from Oa in a rage, and here she arrives on New Koregar, and again she is ready for battle. And she's very competent at it too, because she is making these giant constructs, including lots of people whom she knows, including John. She literally makes a buzzsaw at one point. And she's confronted by several Sinestro Corps members, including Arculo and Romat Rue. And she is able to fight the Sinestro Corps to like a stalemate until they're both kind of knocked out of the sky, her opponents and her. What did you think of that scene?
I loved the Kelly scene. I thought, just like because she was angry and in an emotional state, the raw force and power that she displayed was impressive. And also because we see a word bubble and somebody's describing what's going on. We're seeing a lot of we're getting a perspective of Kelly, from a person, I don't want to spoil that yet.
Yeah, right.
Who says, basically saying, they don't know, speaking of talking about the Yellow Lanterns, they don't know what they're up against with her. Neither do I. I've never come in contact with her. So it's building her up as this unknown, powerful force that I thought was really cool.
And that said, it even says, the person, whom is narrating this says, this is not just a child throwing a tantrum.
Right, yeah. And it's, again, I think it's not just a tantrum. I think what it is it's her anger, her conviction, and also the unknown about that gauntlet.
Yes.
Like all those factors. If I'm Sinestro, well, maybe not Sinestro, because he's a bit arrogant, he's a bit, well-to-do about himself. He thinks he's the be-all and end-all, and but the rest of the Yellow Lanterns and the person narrating would be right to fear Kelly at this point.
Yeah, so again, we still don't know. We still don't know the nature of the gauntlet. Obviously, it is very powerful in Kelly's hands.
And by the way, the artwork in those pages was out of this world phenomenal. I think those pages were done by Marco Santucci, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And I gotta say, watching them, it's as if I'm watching a comic. Reading them and get with a guided view on Comixology. Oh, it just adds to the experience. Like I can take my time as I'm going through each panel. That is a beautiful feature on Comixology that I just want to call out. And when you get the right artist, an artist of the caliber of Marco Santucci, and the colorist that's doing his work, I'm not 100%. I can't recall the name of the colorist, but I don't want to shortchange anybody. But all those things coalesce into, I don't know. Like there's something about reading a physical issue, but there's also an added element of reading the digital and using that guided feature that really makes things pop. So I just wanted to call that out, especially in a title like Green Lantern.
Yes. Well, back to the story here, we see that the narration is happening. It's coming from a cloaked figure from the Sinestro Corps. Now, I wish I could say that the only reason I knew who this is because you see a symbol over this character's eye, which I want to make a note here. It's not over the right eye the way we're used to seeing it. It's now over the left eye, much like Sinestro uses his ring on his left hand.
Are we gonna spoil? Are we gonna spoil who it is? Do you want to do that?
Well, it's already been spoiled because of
I know, but
2021 annual.
Did you want to say it, or should we just?
You want to leave it for the next episode? I'll let you make that call.
Oh, sure. Make me look like the bad. Listen, first and foremost, I'm just gonna say this because I know Jeff didn't like the fact that was spoiled on the solicitation. I feel like since it was in the solicitation, we can say it.
Okay.
I mean, look, if you read this comic and you still don't know who that is, how can you not know who that is?
Right.
I mean, it's kind of obvious.
Well, again, though, but the Sinestro Corps logo, it's moved from the right eye to the left eye.
I think that's very intentional, right?
Right, exactly.
Sinestro,
Sinister, yeah.
The
left hand referred to as the left hand, and that's very offensive to left-handed people.
By the way, let me just say it. I'm left-handed, and I'm not blaming Jeff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fight the power, brother.
Jeff, because he was, this was already a thing. But calling the guy Sinestro from the get-go is very insulting to left-handed people. I don't appreciate. I'm not a villain.
Right. Well, and he actually wasn't
left-handed. What is DC trying to say about left-handed people? Right. Are you trying to drive me to more Marvel books? Because you're doing a good job. No,
he actually wasn't left-handed until he became like the head of the Sinestro Corps. Originally, he wasn't left-handed. Right. That was something that was a continuity thing later on. Yeah.
Why is the left-handed guy got to be the evil version?
Right. Well, I mean it was even referred to throughout history as the sinister hand.
Yeah, I disagree with history. I think it's very offensive to me.
Well, yeah.
And I think I should start a hashtag. I don't know what it's going to be, but that's what people do nowadays when they're offended, right? They start hashtags, right?
Exactly. Well, and I'll say this. Go ahead.
Hashtag restore the integrity of the left hand. There. Because I just wanted to put restore because, the Snyderholics. But anyway, I digress. Continue. Yeah. This has gone off the rails long enough.
No, at one time, someone who was left-handed was considered to be like disordered, and they were given like conversion therapy. You go back a couple hundred years in history and read about the things that left-handers went through.
Oh yeah, my dad was the same. Like, he's not 100 years old, but when he was in school back in Italy, he was left-handed. Mm-hmm. So they would make him put his hand behind his back and write with the right hand.
Yes.
Which is like, what's wrong with people? Like,
exactly. How horrible is it? Yeah.
I make no bones about it. I can't write with my right hand. I can't hold the pen properly with the right hand.
Yeah.
No problems with that.
So yeah. Anyway, but
isn't Hellboy's hand the left hand of Doom? Isn't it?
I believe so. Yeah.
See, that's a badass hand. He knocked you out with that hand.
Yeah. So anyway,
by the way, Steven, where are my cupcakes? Don't make me use the left hand of Doom.
Don't make me use the left. Flanders on The Simpsons is left-handed too. Remember, he had the left Torian.
Well, that's not a ring endorsement. Flanders is a loser. Anyway.
I like Flanders. He's got a good soul. Anyway,
you just like the dad jokes because you're a dad joke connoisseur. That's all you care about.
Oh, anyway. Wait until you see Jungle Cruise. The dad humor in that is sublime. I won't go into it because again,
is The Rock the one that's doing it? Because
you bet it is wonderful.
How many girls has he got? 3.
I think so. Yeah.
He's lucky he's already bald.
Right.
Because if he wasn't. Yeah. And don't you have all girls?
I have 2 girls. Yes.
I sense a pattern here.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I was shaving my head about 10 years before I started going bald, but it's a good thing that I liked myself bald because then, I lost it anyway.
And listen, if people are going to insult left-handed people saying we're evil, I'm going to say having girl children is the source of baldness. There. How do you like that, apples, people? Putting people in boxes. I don't appreciate it. Anyway, continue. We've gone off the rail.
So, anyway, we see that this cloaked figure is able to.
Okay, I'm just going to say who it is. This is ridiculous. It's Jessica. Come on.
Okay. Unfortunately, there was a solicitation. We saw that on the cover of the Green Lantern 2021 annual, Jessica Cruz is now a member of Sinestro Corps.
Yeah, by the way, DC, shame on you for spoiling that early.
Yeah.
I think solicitations got to do a better job of, and also cover images, right?
Right.
Of protecting the integrity of the secrets of the story. Especially given that solicitations are 2 months ahead of the actual issue we're on.
No, I fully agree. And, Jeff set this up in a way that I don't think everybody, longtime readers, people who are very...
And you know what is funny? I forgot about the solicitation.
Mm-hmm.
And then you in a private message said, you didn't spoil it, but you said, after reading it, now I understand why Jeff was put off by the solicitation.
Yeah.
So I had it in my mind. I said, "What's he talking about?" And then there was I was going along the issue, we're seeing the voiceover, but we're not seeing her.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we saw the cloaked figure and we saw you see the marking on the eye. Now I didn't take note of the left eye scenario.
Right.
Because I would have had a rant while I was reading the issue about the whole. But just when you notice that the mark, I'm like, Jessica.
Right.
And I knew that we knew that she was going to go yellow. From the last, was it the last annual? No, it was
Future State.
Future State.
But remember, she had the ring kind of floating in front of her.
She had the
sector house.
She had that Die Hard scene where she was, going through. Yeah. So I knew it was coming. I just didn't know because we hadn't seen her for a while. You didn't know when.
Mm-hmm.
But the minute you see her with the cloak and you see the marking, it's like, if you've been reading for a decade like I have, at least, you know who it is.
Right. But not everybody would have known that, and
that's true.
Some newer readers, and so I like the fact that I like the way Jeff sets this up, but obviously it was spoiled by that solicitation. So anyway, again, Jessica as this cloaked figure, she's able to use the fear energy to activate Kelly's worst memory. She sneaks up behind her, she grabs her by the head, and you see that Kelly is overwhelmed by these negative emotions, and she is knocked out.
Yeah.
But down from the sky in a green bubble comes Iron Baz, which I thought was, which was a really cool. I really like that image.
At first, I was like, "Wait a minute, who is that guy in the iron suit?" Did I miss the part where we crossed over with Marvel and suddenly Tony Stark is flying around?
No, you see the Green Lantern logo on it. I loved it, Iron Bat. And see, now I want that figure too. There are so many figures.
Let's be honest, that would be a pretty awesome figure. But also,
it would be, yes.
Let's also be honest. You know what I want to do if a figure of that comes out, right?
What?
I want to buy one, find out where Phil Bova lives, and send him that as a gift. Come on.
He would never speak to us again.
He'd appreciate it. What's the name of that statue company that makes all those high-end, overly expensive statues? Iron.
Oh, there's several. There's Sideshow and
no, not Sideshow. Iron something or other.
Iron Studios.
They just released an image of a Val Kilmer Batman Forever one that's like $1,000 something.
Yeah.
Make one of Simon Bass as Green Lantern.
Yeah.
I'll start a Kickstarter where all the Green Lantern fans pitch in to buy one for Phil Bola. I'd organize that. I think we could get the funds.
Yeah. Like I said, there are so many figures in this run. I mean, so many characters.
Phil's gonna block me on Twitter so fast if he listens to
Phil knows I love him. But no, there are so many characters like the dress uniforms, and Simon with having the cybernetic cast, and now Jessica in the Sinestro Corps. There are so many characters that would make great figures. And anyway,
this coming from the guy that says I got no room. But also, give me more figures.
Oh, what can I say? What can I say? So anyway, Iron Vaz, he is, despite the fact that he has on this, suit of armor, he's no match for Jessica's construct of a giant cobra.
Yeah.
So she says his name. She says, Simon, take her and get her off New Corrigar, meaning Kelly. And Simon's like, wait a minute, how do you know who I am?
Yeah.
So we see that story point developing there. I like how I really like that part of the story.
That's going to be an interesting confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
When that is revealed.
Yeah.
And my question is, my curiosity now becomes, why has Jessica chosen to go down this path?
Sure. Well,
what led her to go down this route? Like, is it the fact that now she's finally got a handle of her fears? That the idea of using that fear as a weapon, I mean, she'll try and probably twist it for positive means, unlike the rest of the Yellow Lanterns, but
right.
So she'll be the outlier, but just the idea of using that fear as a weapon for good instead of what it always used to do to her, could that have been a driving force in her making her decision, or what was it? Like, that's what I'm interested in finding out.
Right. And I think we'll get that story eventually.
Maybe I'll message Jeff and ask him what the hell's going on, like you do.
Yeah.
Every time I get an issue.
Yeah. He's very protective of story points that haven't come out yet. He'll answer questions for you. He'll give you clarity. Very nice guy, very approachable guy.
I'll harass him when he comes on the show. No, I'm kidding.
And going back to that point, another factor is the fact that, Jessica, she can't go back to the Green Lantern Corps as a ring wielder because, again, there's only a couple functional rings at this point.
Yeah.
So that may be the allure, too, is that she feels like she still needs to be a wielder of power. So,
yeah.
So then we transition to Sergilon, and the inhabitants of Sergilon are having a town hall. So many of them have turned against John Stewart, although Sakari is still on his side. And John comes in, and I really like this scene because regardless of the fact that, they are turning against him and showing negativity, John's like, you need to evacuate because those raiders, those slavers will come back to Quinuri.
Yes.
So I like the fact that John is able to kind of tackle this in a very rational way. He's able to compartmentalize his emotions and still look at this as somebody who is looking out for the well-being of a large group of in this case, aliens.
I gotta say, this whole aspect with John is really, I'm liking it because, especially this issue in particular, it reminded me so much of like a Star Trek episode. Like it felt very much in that vein.
Right.
And, I'm a huge fan of Star Trek, so you want to bring some Star Trek-isms, is that even a thing? Fine by me. And I don't know what it is, but John's new uniform
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love
Looks
it.
like something out of Starfleet, but with the Green
Oh
Lantern.
yeah. That's another figure that I want. I'm sure that was
Well, and
already.
also it reminds me of I don't know if you've ever read it, Donnie. The Green Lantern Star Trek crossover.
Oh yes, of course I have it. Yeah, both of them.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
there's more than
mean,
one.
and I love that. I love that story. So
Oh yeah.
to me, yeah, I mean that was like, hey, it's, actually, funny aside, quickly, when I read that story, you know how it was the Calvin timeline of Star Trek. So that means Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto,
Right.
the whole thing. Well, it's funny because before Chris Pine became Steve Trevor in the DC Extended Universe,
I know where you're going with this.
there were rumors of, Chris Pine's going to play Hal Jordan, which I was like, where do I sign? Because to me, that would have been perfect casting.
Yes.
And then I remember the rumors were still swirling when the first volume of that crossover came out. And whenever I saw Hal Jordan with Kirk, I was like, well, imagine if he is cast as Green Lantern. Yeah, like just the idea of doing this as a live action thing would have been Chris Pine. It would have been hilarious.
How perfect would that have been? Yeah.
And then when the second one came along, and by that point he had been announced as Steve Trevor. I think maybe the first Wonder Woman movie came out. And I'm like, no, this is just really weird because he's Kirk. I wanted him as Hal Jordan, and now he's Steve Trevor. So imagine if they did that kind of crossover. Like imagine Argus had to team up with the Green Lantern Corps, and they had to team up with the crew of the Enterprise. It would have been a whole. Yeah. But my headcanon was doing a lot of somersaults when that second part came out. But go on. Today.
Anyway, so back to we've gone off the rails a couple times on this podcast. So
the train doesn't know which rail to get back on.
so we're going back to Sergilon now.
Yeah.
The John and the inhabitants of Sergilon, they take a slaver ship. They're able to get past the barrier. RRU-92, more specifically just his head, and you see it kind of up on the console of the ship. He's able to pilot them to the lighthouse. You remember we saw the lighthouse back, John was working on that with the other Green Lanterns. Yes. And we see that Savfk and Nort are there.
Oh, your favorite Nort is back. Yeah.
I'm glad to see Savfk, though. I was really happy to see that he was still alive. So,
also, send Nort figures to Donnie's house.
There actually is a Nort figure. I don't own it, but there is one. So
we should. I'll find a way to correct that one day.
I actually wouldn't mind. The one that we saw in Future State where he was all like jacked up.
Yeah.
And Jeff says that we're going to eventually see the reason for that.
Okay.
So I wouldn't mind that figure.
So steroids, wasn't it?
I don't know. Maybe. So John comes on.
The Vince McMahon tailored version of Nort.
Let's not go there. Let's not go there. So in the lighthouse, we see though that John, he's reunited and he's happy to see a bunch of his fellow Lanterns. However, Kenzie, we saw her in Future State, and we saw her.
Yeah,
I believe it was Green Lantern number 3, where she was on the big construct ship with John.
Sure.
She, comes up and she's like, "Where were you when this happened?" Kind of mirroring the way that Joe interacted with Hal Jordan.
Yes.
Except instead of just grabbing him by the collar the way that Joe did to Hal, Kenzie just unleashes a punch and knocks John in the jaw. So she's very upset.
Poor John.
John's getting it from every direction, isn't he? So,
he's just trying to do the right thing.
Yeah. So anybody who thinks that Geoff Thorne was going to get on this book and just make it all about John and have John be the guy who comes out on top, John is being put through his paces here.
To dispel that stupid thought that was going around way back when when it was first announced that Geoff Thorne was in the book, like in this issue, he doesn't get the first part billing. He's in the second half of the book.
Right.
So it's like there's no favoritism here.
Right. And so far in this run, we've seen him nearly suffocated in space.
Yeah, I mean, he's not
We've
having a
seen
fun time.
him, attacked by raiders and electrocuted, and we've seen the people, the aliens whom he was protecting. We've seen them turn against him, and now we've seen him punched by one of his own in the Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah,
So
it's not like
he's getting it from every side.
Yeah, he's having a rough go of it. It's not like he's hanging around at the alien equivalent of the Playboy Mansion, with all kinds of bunnies, which why not? But I digress. So he's not having a good time with it. I mean, that would be my ideal. Find me a world where it's all of that. But anyway, I digress. No, yeah, he's not having an easy go of it for sure.
So before the story ends, though, we see that Kilowog is under attack with Hanu in his arms, who seemingly is injured, and Kilowog is requesting evacuation.
Yeah, save Kilowog.
Mm-hmm. And that's how this story ends. So.
All right, so let's go ahead and shall we rate this issue?
Yeah. So, Green Lantern #5, variant cover and the regular cover.
Donnie, I'm shocked. You bought the variant cover again.
There's very little to dislike in this. I've got to give it a perfect 5. There is. Go ahead. I'll let you let you give your rating, and then I want to say I have some closing thoughts.
Okay. Yeah, I've got nothing but high praise for this. It really is a fantastic story. We're getting, essentially, it's all one book, but we're getting 2 stories simultaneously here. One is more, I don't know if this is going to sound correct when I say it, but one is more like a traditional Green Lantern story that I'm used to reading, since I got back into it in 2004, which is like the first half.
Yeah.
And then the John Stewart stuff is kind of like this, almost like a sci-fi Western Star Trek kind of thing. Yeah. It's a little unique while still being very much Green Lantern. So you're getting a good mix you're getting multiple flavors of story in this. And the art by both Marco Santucci and Tom Raney is top notch. And any tiny issue, because I remember last issue I pointed out some tiny issues I had with some work by Tom Raney in the issue. Any of that has been, I mean, this issue was, perfect from both guys. So I'm going to give the writing a 5 and the art a 5. So perfect 10 in total.
Yeah, likewise, me on both fronts.
It's the Margot Robbie of comic books. It's a perfect 10. I'm not kidding about Margot Robbie being a perfect 10, but anyway.
Right. I keep going back to previous issues and discovering little tie-ins, little nods to Green Lantern history, things like Mosaic, and this book becomes more intricate to me as time goes on. Like, the little logo thing that I pointed out. There are so many things like that. Geoff Thorne just really knows his business. He knows his craft. And the more I read here, the more I realize how intricate this story is.
Yeah.
And again, I gain respect for him and this team with each passing issue. So, that being said, I want to know where Kyle is. But other than that,
I knew you were going to mention that at some point in this podcast. I had a feeling. But yeah, no, top-notch stuff all around. As always, I can't wait for the next issue.
Likewise, yeah.
We said that we're planning to get Jeff back on pretty soon here, right?
Yes.
within the next episode or so, or next couple episodes, I think.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, that there's. I think he. Did we say? I forget exactly what we said. I think we said September.
We're targeting September.
Yeah, we're targeting September, which would be like we would have time to read the next issue and like have him back on the show then. So yeah.
So issue 5 and then and then.
Right. No, issue 5 is this, and then issue 6.
Issue 6, and then have Jeff.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna get Jeff back. So if you enjoyed the first time he appeared, he's gonna be back. We had promised that we would bring him back, and he promised to come back. Not that way, because we always want him back. But the fact that he wanted to come back is more important than us wanting him back. Because what we want doesn't necessarily matter. I got a list of things that I want that I don't get, so the fact that he's coming back is good. But yeah, we're going to bring him back, and that should be fun. I think we also have one of our old, not old, but our look back into Kyle episodes. Mm-hmm. We got 1 or 2 of those in the can, so we'll be releasing those as well. Yep. We'll be getting back to those when things calm down, but we've got a lot of cool comics that we want to cover, and so we'll get there. We're just in due time. We'll plot out an episode where we can cover another batch of Kyle exclusive issues. So a lot of good things coming. Hopefully, we'll have more casting for the Green Lantern HBO Max show to cover soon. Mm-hmm. I venture to guess that we'll hear more about that at Fandom.
Right.
Is my guess.
Mm-hmm. And this Tuesday, hopefully, on the premiere of Stargirl, we get to see the first Green Lantern in live action. Yeah. The first Green Lantern in 10 years.
That's impressive, and I've heard from a couple of people who have gotten the chance to see screeners of the first few episodes. They haven't spoiled anything because they're contractually not allowed to.
Okay.
But the consensus that what they have said online, what they've been able to say, is that Green Lantern fans should be very pleased. So
I can't wait.
So yeah,
Jade's one of my favorite characters.
So Tuesday is going to be a double dose for us in terms of entertainment, in terms of the always ever great Superman and Lois returning, and then that is going to be a double bill with that and Stargirl. So what a night of television that's going to be. And also Titans is back this week for DC fans.
Yeah.
Which, me being the Batman homer that I am, just I've been accused of that, so I'll just run with it. A lot of Nightwing stuff. Which is a book we got to get back to reviewing, because a lot of good stuff is happening there. And Red Hood, obviously, making his live action debut. So I'm happier than a kid at Christmas with all the good DC content we're having. And Steven and I will be recording our Suicide Squad, or the Suicide Squad review, where there will be a lot of pen clicking, because one of my Multiverse wives, Marco Robbie, is, of course, one of the headliners of that movie. So a lot of good stuff coming on this network. But if you want to continue discussing with specifically Donnie and I regarding Green Lantern, you can. So, Donnie, where can they find you on the socials?
You can find me on Twitter as the Emerald Enthusiast. Let's talk comics. Let's talk collectibles. Let's talk Green Lantern.
And if you want to find me on social media, it's at Adam_LeaseFan on Twitter. And then the podcast network has its own Twitter, which is at MMNPDC. And then if you want to follow the Facebook group, the link is below. Click it. I will add you, and we can continue the conversation there. But remember, until next time, that John Stewart and the Green Lanterns, all of them, are forever. From the first time that Donnie harasses Geoff Thorne on Twitter after Green Lantern to the last, So long, everybody.